All right, let's get into NFL power rankings. Haven't done these in a couple of weeks because we have been a little bit under the weather, but we're back now. Number 32, the worst team in the league, the Houston Texans. And they've had a couple of plucky, oh, hey, look at the Texans. But it's pretty clear now, this is the worst team in football. And in a draft class that has a number of quarterbacks available, they will be taking one. I do not believe that quarterback is the only issue this team has, but it is an issue. And there's a lot of times where I'm like, hey, you need to establish the foundation. For the Texans, it makes all the sense in the world. Take a quarterback at number one, and then make sure you build around that quarterback, but they got to take a quarterback at number one. My second worst team in the league, the Pittsburgh Steelers. I just don't think this is a very good football team. There's aspects of the defense that are good. There are a couple of pieces on offense that I like, but for the first time in my lifetime, that this is time for a rebuild in Pittsburgh. And they're another team, we've talked about this at length. I don't know what you do if they have the second overall pick, which I don't believe they're in line for. I think right now Chicago is, which also is interesting. But say they do have a top pick. Do you go quarterback? Do you trust in Kenny Pickett that he can get you to the promised land? I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting to see what Pittsburgh does in this draft. At number 30, it's Denver. They don't have a choice in this draft. And I mean, they give Seattle a bit of an interesting conundrum because Geno Smith is having the best year of his career. Do you draft a quarterback with a high pick and create a bit of a controversy there? Or do you keep building around this quarterback who has led you? I think you probably draft a quarterback with one of your picks. I think it's going to be interesting for Seattle what they do with Denver's pick. For Denver, they're just stuck right now. They have a giant quarterback contract that they can't get out of. The dead cap hit on the Russell Wilson contract is so debilitating that you're stuck. You really are stuck with this contract right now for the Broncos. And I mean, as a Raider fan, it doesn't break my heart at all to see this happening with them, but I can't imagine being a Broncos fan right now and watching all of this. That was the big get. You did it. You got the big quarterback, and this was going to now be the thing where, all right, this was the missing piece. We are going to take off. This is going to be great, and it's been a disaster season. That has to be. I know there's a couple of teams below. If we're just doing vibes rankings, then this team definitely has the worst vibes. Yeah, looking at it right now, if they were to cut him tomorrow, which they're not going to, it's a $124 million dead cap hit. 2023, $107 million. 2024, $85 million. 2025, $49 million. 2026, $31 million. Hey, by 2027, so 5 years from now, it's at $12 million. That's manageable. You can make that work. It's a disaster. It is just such a disaster with Denver at this point. And I don't know what they do. You definitely fire the coach after 1 year and you bring in a guy and you hope that you can get the most out of it. But you traded away one of your best defensive players. This is really, really a tough spot for the Broncos now to be in, and it doesn't seem like there's a real obvious way out for the next little while. The Rams down at 24. They also don't have their own first-round pick, I don't believe. Anyway, this was just a crashing down to earth year for the LA Rams. I don't think that this is major rebuild needs to come or anything like that. I think that this is a team that, look, everything went right for them in last season when they went on to win the Super Bowl. But now you've had some injury problems. It's clear that this roster wasn't up to it. The offensive line is a major issue, and I do have confidence that they'll be able to get it back. But this is what happens when you kind of go all in: is that eventually it doesn't work out. So just scrolling through it right now, yeah, the Lions would have the Rams pick if that were to I mean, look, the Lions have the Rams pick. Sorry, that there isn't any caveat on it or any protection on it. The Lions would have the Rams pick. Boy, that's interesting. That the Lions would be able to get basically two quarterbacks out of it if they were if this kind of stays the way it's staying and the way it's going to look. that the Lions, get Jared Goff out of this, and then also whoever they'll be able to draft with the Rams pick. Very interesting stuff here. At 28, it is the Chicago Bears. Justin Fields has been a fun story, with him being a little bit banged up. There are some concerns, obviously. And you're seeing the real flaws of this roster. It does feel like they got the quarterback thing at least kind of figured out. Now you need the rest of it. That's why I didn't mind the Claypool acquisition. They still need more, and they just need more basically everywhere. So, your bottom 5 for NFL Power Rankings this week: the Bears, the Rams, the Broncos, the Steelers, and the worst team in the league, the Houston Texans. Just outside of the top 5, Carolina is at 27. They need a quarterback in a very desperate way. At 26, it is Kyler Murray. I would imagine we are seeing the final few games of Cliff Kingsbury. If it were me, I would get him out of there now. I think the longer he is there, the more damage that is being caused. At 25, it's New Orleans. Had a couple of glimpses at the beginning of the year, but this team just isn't it. Again, in need of a quarterback. I think there are some offensive things that need to get figured out. I think they need a better coach, to be perfectly frank with you. There's just needs there. At 24, it is Cleveland. They are one of the more intriguing and unpredictable teams this week, as they have a piece of shit quarterback coming back after a 2-year absence, so we will see what happens there. Green Bay continues to fall off. They're at 23. At 22, it's Jacksonville. 21, it is the Colts. At 20, it's the Raiders, who have won back-to-back dramatic overtime games that maybe they didn't deserve to win, but they're at least kind of hanging around relevancy. So a couple of wins there, kind of canceling off a couple of losses that they shouldn't have had throughout the year. But you go back and look at some of those losses. They shouldn't have lost to the Cardinals, shouldn't have lost to the Jags, shouldn't have lost to the Colts. There's a number of those that if they've just taken care of business, this team would be right in the playoff hunt. They are a fascinating team going into next offseason. I'm not just saying that because I have a Bo Jackson and Darren McFadden jersey. I have no idea what they do with Derek Carr this upcoming offseason. At 19, it's Detroit, who proved that they've taken the step. Maybe not the step that other people thought, but I do think Detroit's taken the step that this podcast thought they were going to this season, where they're going to give some good teams scares. They're still going to lose more than they are going to win. And now next year is the, hey, can this team threaten for a playoff spot year? At 18, it's Atlanta. 17, it is Tampa Bay. And now getting into the top half of the league. At 16, the New England Patriots. I still don't think this is a great football team. This is more a statement on where the league is at. At 15, it's Washington. 14, it's the Giants. 13 is the Jets. 12, the Chargers. And at 11, it is Seattle. Now into our top 10. At 10, the Tennessee Titans. Tough one against the Cincinnati Bengals last week, which vaults Cincinnati up in our rankings. Titans are still a good football team with a great coach and an elite running back that they're going to give problems to teams, but I think it's clear that there are still a couple of pieces away from being in the upper echelon in the NFL. But we talked before about who's actually good in the NFL. We are now at that cutoff, I think. We have 10 teams that we can say are good in the league. Very few great, but as we'll get to a little bit later on. Baltimore coming in at number 9. At 8, it's Cincinnati. Man, if Jamar Chase could have stayed healthy, who knows, the back part of this year for Cincinnati. Look, maybe he will be back in the lineup, but I don't know how much you're trusting him going into this week. At 7, it's Minnesota. That defense, man, is just a piece of work. And we all know how tough it is to trust Kirk Cousins. I had them up earlier in the year, and I paid for it a little bit. At 6, it is San Francisco. I probably could have them higher. I still think that my thoughts of San Francisco making it to the Super Bowl out of the NFC are still alive and well. I think this is an incredibly talented football team. I do wish that there would be a little bit more of letting Jimmy Garoppolo cook, but the weapons on this offense are great. The playmakers on defense are fantastic as well. This is just a really quality football team. At 5, it is Miami. This offense is one of the best that we have ever seen. And again, with noted piece of shit Tyreek Hill on the roster, but Tua has shown that he can handle this type of an offense. There is so much speed on this team. They make the additions to the defense at the deadline. I like this team a lot and what they're doing. At 4, it's the Dallas Cowboys. I think they have, now that Aaron Donald is banged up, I think they have the best defensive player in the league. I think that they have so many weapons on offense, and I think Dak Prescott can get them there. The only question we have about the Dallas Cowboys, the coaching staff. And now the top three, it's the same three teams that we've had for most of the year. At 3, it is Buffalo. They've slipped on a couple banana peels, so they dropped to the 3 spot. At 2, it is Philadelphia. They are just so clearly the best team in the NFC. And at number 1, it's Mahomes, it's Kelsey, it's Andy Reid, it's the Kansas City Chiefs. So, once again, your bottom 5, Chicago, the Rams, Denver, Pittsburgh, and Houston. And your top 5, Miami, Dallas, Buffalo, Philadelphia, and Kansas City. Those are your NFL power rankings.